Welcome back. I just want to give a shout out to Liberty, our sponsors, who has made this possible for us and has been involved in education for more than 30 years. I just want to remind you also about the Tenfold Education app, which you can download, and you can also watch us on YouTube at Mindset Learn if you missed the live session. Let's dive into paper 2. Paper 2 in business studies is divided into two main topics, business ventures and business roles, which each have a couple of chapters underneath them. So, the content. Paper 2 covers, as I said, business ventures and business roles, but business ventures covers 5 subtopics, 5 chapters, and business roles consists of 6 subtopics. Both main topics are equally assessed in this paper, so they are of equal importance. Once again, it's a 150 mark paper and it's for 2 hours long. Let's start with business ventures. Now, I've given you the mark breakdown of what to expect when it's asked in section A, B, or C. So, management and leadership, investment and insurance, and presentation of data, these 3 all have the same requirements. It's only 16 marks if it is in section A and B, and a maximum of 52 if it is in section B or C. But now note here, it can be an essay question because section C is your essay questions. Also note that investment, security opportunities, and forms of ownership, they can only be assessed in section A and B. Section A being your short questions and B being your slightly longer answers, your explain and the likes. So, forms of ownership, no essay. Investment, security opportunities, no essay. So, quick wins for business ventures. Let's look at that. We refer to them as low-hanging fruits, which is basically topics that appear almost in every year's paper for question 1, 2, 4, and 5. The first one is management and leadership. Now, the leadership style and their impacts and or their application of those leadership styles is almost in every paper. Now remember that impact refers to advantages and disadvantages. So don't forget that. It doesn't change. Your application of a leadership style, there's also a couple of bullet points per leadership style. And here are the leadership styles, which I listed for you. Now, democratic leadership style, that's typically where a leader involves the rest of his staff and decision making. Autocratic, it means one man's the boss, he makes the decision, it's his way or the highway. Now, free reign or laissez-faire, very beautiful French word, is where the boss or the manager trusts his employees to do the work the way they want to, just get the job done. He's not micromanaging them, that he or she allows them to make decisions and to do what works. That's a very trusting boss that does that. And it's also, if you are working with an expert team, that's typically very effective. Then you have your charismatic. Your charismatic one, the word charismatic literally derives from the word charisma. So it's based on the charisma of the leader. So the leader is so well liked that he or she is capable of influencing the rest of his team members to agree with him even if they did not initially think that they would agree with him. It's all about personality. Whereas your transactional one, which is also referred to as your managerial leadership style, focuses on rewards and punishments. Reward being you get an incentive if you do this well. Reward can also be seen as a salary. I'm paying you, you better do this. Or alternate, and also punishment. Punishment being, all right, so we withhold certain privileges from you. We take away some of your fringe benefits, so you don't have a vehicle allowance anymore, or you have to work an extra hour to complete the work that you could not do during normal working hours. That's a very old-fashioned way of doing things, though in some instances it is applicable and useful and valid. There are also leadership theories which are very popular in the papers. You have your situational leadership theory, your transformational leadership, your leaders and followers, and transitional leadership. Now in the prelim papers, I believe it was a situational leadership theory that was asked this year. So be aware of what they contain, what is meant with them. Because they can be very sneaky. They can either give it to you in a scenario where you have to identify what kind of leadership style this leader is employing, which is a little bit harder, or they can just give you a straight up question saying, explain the transformational leadership theory. But be aware of these theories, for they are very popular in the papers. And then the one that surprises me, because so many people struggle with this, is the role and personal attitude of a successful leadership. In other words, what characteristics does that leader have? And people seem to really misunderstand that question completely. But if you just think logically, you should be able to, even without really studying that, even if you hit a blank, just think logically and you should be able to answer that question. The next section is about investment securities. Now here our low-hanging fruits are your investment decision factors. It's forms of investment, which is your government or your RSA retail saving bonds. It's your unit trusts, your shares, and your fixed deposits. There are also types of preference shares. Now, in the prelim, they gave a scenario of two people that bought two different types of shares. The one was ordinary shares, and the other one was preference shares. And then they asked an extension question of saying what kind of preference shares there are. Now, there are 8 types of preference shares, and I'm telling you that they are very important to know. Then the other question is the calculations of simple interest and the calculations of compound interests, and then the differences between simple and compound interest. All of this I need to discuss with you a little bit and show you a little example on what is the difference. So now remember, in this chapter, we're talking about investment. So you have a sum of money which you want to invest somewhere, and you want to let that money grow. You want to earn interest. You want to earn a profit. All right, so hypothetically speaking, let's say you've got 30,000 Rand. All right, which you invested at an interest rate of 10% for 2 years. 2 years. Now, if this is a simple interest example, you can just punch this in straight into your calculator and you will get the amount of 6,000. So that is the amount of interest that you will earn. But be mindful of what they're asking. They might ask you, what amount do you have in the bank then? Which means you need to take your 30,000 and add the 6,000. That's important, which means you've got 36,000 in the bank. All right, that's your simple interest one. Now with compound interest, it in essence works the same for the first bits, but I cannot use this year. I cannot use the year element. So I cannot go on there. So you just say 30,000 times 10% gives me 3,000 for the first year, for year 1. When you calculate the second years, you need to take the original 30,000, add that 3,000, which then becomes 33,000, and then times it with 10%. Ooh, that 10 doesn't look like a 10 at all, but anyway. So that means that your interest is 3,300 for that year, if you just punch it in. So your interest, if you add these two together for the 2 years, is then more than it is if you invested it with simple interest. Here your amount is 6,300. Now you can see that 6,300 is clearly bigger than 6,000 Rand. Now doing it this way is grand if there are only 2 years. But the moment it hits more than 2 years, I recommend that you actually use the compound interest formula. Now P stands for the amount that you invested. That's P is equal to 30,000. All right. 1 plus R. R is the interest rate, which is 10%. And then your N actually stands for the period, which is, in this instance, 2 years, and it has to be per annum. The moment that they change the N and they make it 6 months, then you need to convert that 6 months to years, which means it becomes 0.5 years. Or the other one that they do is they take 18 months. And then you need to realize, oh, okay, 18 months is the same as 1.5 years. Be mindful of that. That's the traps that they can ask, and it's very, very popular in exam papers. Moving along. So now we've hit insurance. Now, insurance concepts are very, very important. Now, what am I talking about here? What concepts? In your prelim paper, we had the difference between insurance and assurance. All right? Insurance is short-term, assurance is long-term. Insurance is for an event that is maybe going to happen. So like I might bump my car into another car and I might need car insurance. So that I will have a safety net, I take out car insurance. Where assurance is something that will definitely happen, and it will happen typically over a longer period. So this is where your life insurance comes into play. You will definitely at some point die, at some point. And at that point, an amount of money will be paid out to your dependents. Or you will at some point retire, and then you will have a retirement annuity that will pay out a sum. All right, that's the main differences there. But there's also things like your insurance rate, your insurance period, and also risk is also one of the concepts that you should be very familiar with. Principles of insurance is important. Advantages of insurance, in a nutshell, you're transferring the risk that you bear to another company. Types of compulsory insurance, we have UIF, which is the Unemployment Insurance Fund. We've got RAF, the Road Accident Fund, and we've got COIDA, which is the Compensation of Occupational Injuries and Disease Act for when you get hurt at work. And then the benefits of UIF is almost in every paper. Let's move on. Before we go into forms of ownership, I just want to take a brief break and let this information settle a bit before we continue.